What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to Mike, Henrik86, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Steve ALM, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Liam Nedrick, Dank, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Frakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Tina Baker, Alexander Main, and David Wayne Foster. So a massive shout out again to all of you who support me on Patreon. Now we are joined by a couple of people in G Plus and Discord, so I'll raise the mic on them and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while we set up for today's live show. Okay, so did you send me something, 10th man?
Yeah, Master B. 3 pictures. Let me know when you got it up.
Okay, so I've got a dome and a circle.
Yeah, so just real simple. I think it's self-explanatory. Stars, no matter how distant, are pictured as being on a single crystalline sphere. That's the celestial sphere model with the Earth in the middle and all the stars hugging it. To the right, it says horizon. As you see that circle where it looks like a shepherd standing in the middle, it says the human experience of the celestial sphere. Okay, I'll go to the next picture.
Okay,
They've got it now. Now they got it. You see that little plane there with the compass coordinates is on it, and the zenith, the visible half of the sky. So the Earth is inside this imaginary celestial sphere, which is infinite, by the way. And it says below the horizon in red. Now look where they have that horizon. That would be the rational horizon. But they've got that compass coordinates, as the previous picture would say, was the human experience of the celestial sphere. So the human experience never sees the rational horizon, is what I'm getting to, you see, according to them. And then the last picture kind of shows a picture of what they're trying to tell us. And there's a lot more to this, but I'm going to get it out in bits and pieces and the people make up their own decision.
This is ace. This is what we were discussing yesterday. Getting sharper and sharper at this description, 10th. And with
Thank you.
Visual aids, this is getting really good. Showing how they've wrapped around an observation of a celestial sphere and turned it into the ground beneath our feet being mapped spherically. Yeah, that's why you end up with all the values that we end up with, and these just so stories about people like Al Baruni. Nah, it's a reverse engineering of what we see in the stars. That's all it's ever been. So the values are fixed because it must work that way, because it's been engineered backwards from what we see in the heavens. So yeah, this is ace. It's getting better and better. I love it.
Yeah, that's my hunt, is the reverse engineering. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm finding bits and pieces to try to figure out how they did the reverse engineering and why they have so many horizons, where all the pseudo-science statements are about the whole thing. Now, when you have the Air Almanac and all this stuff that tells you where the stars are going to be whenever you in the future, so they already know. They already know that we're in a closed system and the stars repeat themselves, and it's not this outer space and 4 different directions of movement and going around the sun in 6 months. It's none of that.
Right. It needs verbalizing, though. It seems so obvious when you say it here, and often when there's people on the panel that are globers and flat earthers at the same time, you'll have the globers trying to obfuscate you saying this, and the flat earthers saying, yeah, because they all get it. Both sides almost want to obfuscate these really concise points being put across, because, like I say, on the flat earth side, they get it anyway. They're like, yeah, we know. It's the same with reification. So Anthony told me gravity's a reification. I was like, well, duh. It's like, yeah, but that's not being said. That's not being conveyed to an audience. And look, here's where I've said it to one of the globeheads, and look at the reaction. I was like, oh, that's really got me to raise an eyebrow. Yeah, obviously it's a reification fallacy. They're taking the mathematics and turning it into an actualization of the fallacy of misplaced concretism. Well, yeah, absolutely it is. But who's saying it? Well, no one. So Anthony started saying it, and I thought, well, I'll strap it onto or he asked me to, in fact. He said, can you put it into the housekeeping? And I keep forgetting until Travis says scientific evidence of what? And I go, oh, right, my opportunity to drop in the reification fallacy of gravity.
Yeah, and when you're saying all that, I'm thinking of how the word gravity has been used in sports when you're watching a sporting event, golf in particular. You know, the golf ball gets hit, say by the putter, and the announcer will say, "Oh, it's right at the edge of the cup." Oh, gravity took over. Something stupid like that. So, I mean, you hear it all the time, and the conditioning of what gravity is and how many things it means to people and how they use it in their daily life. So I want to contrast that to what you just said when the other day I had a conversation over the 4th of July with some people, and we're talking about conspiracy things, going down the rabbit hole, the whole thing. And I brought up our subject here. But I brought it up in a way to where it's like they weren't expecting it. But it dovetailed into the whole thing. And the look I got the minute I said it was priceless. Necks turned, eyeballs fixated on me. And one person said, "Oh, don't tell me you're a flat earther."
What do you expect?
Well, this is the beauty. See, you're conditioned in the opposite way there, that a flat earther is crazy or is following some, clickbait of some kind or something crazy. And because we all know the Earth is a spinning ball through space next to a vacuum, blah, blah, blah. Of course, our housekeeping questions came up right after that. And I said, well, I wouldn't say I'm a flat earther the way you say it. I would say I'm geocentric instead of heliocentric. And I'm not sure exactly the final shape of the earth or the nature of our existence, other than water finds its level. So flat earth works for me, but I'm mainly geocentric. And I said, I think everything is around the earth. I don't think everything's around the sun. And that started a great conversation.
Fair enough for you.
When I see those pictures, I say, how the heck did I believe this in the first place?
Because it's reified. Nathan just said it. Until someone challenges it. And that's the first, jarring verbal assault on the reification, is when someone challenges it. And then that person says, "You're crazy. Everyone knows we're a ball spinning through space next to a vacuum, and the air stays in somehow with a force that's not a force."
Yeah, but I never understood how we could be standing on something the way they describe it and, it'd be flat. And I think they trick you with that. Well, the Earth is so big that you don't realize you're curving.
Did you even care, Neil? You're trying to buy a car. Do you actually care about this stuff?
Of course he does. He wouldn't be here daily if he didn't.
No,
you don't understand. This took over sports and everything.
I'm not saying that the way you guys took it. I'm saying as the years you were growing up prior to being on this show, Did you spend all day thinking about this, or did you just go along with your life?
No, I went along, but when this subject was brought to me, well, it wasn't. Yeah, I did watch a lot of videos like everybody else, but then when the Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole mentioned this show, when I put it on, it was over, done, finished. I now find myself jumping from sports. Oh shit, Nathan's starting. So it's a good platform here.
The only way this platform experiences any growth. So, thanks to people like Eddie Bravo and Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, if it wasn't for them, because the algorithm's not recommending us at all, quite the contrary, in fact, it's shoving us right down the lists. So the only time I ever experience growth is if somebody's mentioned me. And that's why I spend a lot of time sort of scurrying around when people share links and stuff, trying to get them into the chat so that people can actually go to the channels and subscribe, or shouting out a particular channel when they've got a plug and saying, no, make sure you do a proper plug for your channel so that they grow, because they'll be suffering the same fate as me if we don't shout each other out. So it's critically important. In other words, Neil, if it wasn't for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, you wouldn't be here, right?
No, I wouldn't be here. But I did gain more respect for you when you went at Bob Nodell like that, because that showed me something. It didn't matter who it was. If they don't got it right, you don't got it right.
It's happened here a few times in the last few days. There was a dude on who was a flat earther. I think it was yesterday, actually. It might have been yesterday. And he's basically
he was driving me nuts.
Yeah, I was getting very angry with him the first time I ever reacted to him, because my reaction's just as strong as it is when a Glober does it. It's like, I don't care that you're a flatty. But by the same token, he wants to get his point across and just wants to discuss it. He doesn't want to labour the point that he's used the wrong terminology because he doesn't understand the importance. And we all understand the importance, and we're just waiting for him to acknowledge it and getting more and more annoyed with him. But it makes no difference that he's a flatty. Who cares? Talk shit, expect pain.
And if one more person brings up your kids, I'm going to hunt them down.
Just another ad hominem attack, like the dude that's going to go out on today's show on the second channel. Members have already seen it. Members really like that feature, so as soon as the second show finishes, or the after show finishes, I publish it and just stick it out to members only. And loads of them are like, I really like this. And I do too. I go and watch it, because once it's set to premiere, you can't watch it. So you're like, oh. But yeah, I'll sit and watch the members only video, because I can scrub through past the live bit, which obviously, you've been a part of it, you've watched it. You don't want to watch it. I'm talking on behalf of people who are members now. But yeah, you get to the after show bit, and once you've scrubbed your way to it, you just watch that bit of your own, at your own pace, rather than having to sit through the premiere. But anyway, the dude that's going to get published, or has published to the members already, was exactly that, wasn't he? We were talking about Fight the Flat Earth and Bev, and really labouring that point, how scummy it is. And then some dude comes in when I'm like, yeah, the ballers are behaving like kids, they need some discipline. And then with a pause, or, a gap between it, and then it's like, yeah, they need to be humiliated because they have no humility. And he's like, oh, so you think you're going to humiliate your kids, or words to that effect? You're like, you're going to find that segue to a scummy, low-down ad hominem attack. Wow.
Well, like you said before, they attack the messenger instead of the message because they've lost on the point. And this is all they got now, is these ad homs and insults. And I just say get rid of them and don't raise your blood pressure. It's not worth it.
Well,
These people, we all get their scum.
I know people say get rid of them,
just berate their behavior because they need berating, but we don't need them anymore.
Well, while that's true, the people who do come represent the society at large and what they do. So when you're like, oh, don't tell me you're not a flat earther, your reaction from your discussion earlier, well, that reaction is a national or international, whatever you want to describe it, a sort of worldwide thing in terms of how people react to this subject, because they're brainwashed to do exactly that. So in terms of maybe thickening up the skin of the people in the chat, that's why it is left as the cesspit that it is, because it's representative of how people behave towards us, and you can see it floating on by. Well, that's why I've kept it the way it is. Because you need to see that. And if you're in the chat and you are tangling with these people, initially when you're like just demean to the point of absurdity by your general next man, your fellow man is demeaning you to the point of, like I say, total absurdity and how harsh they are, that initially will sting a newbie and they'll be put off by it. I think that's the primary purpose. But for the people who are just like, no, I'm flat curious, I want to find out what's what, I'm intrigued to find out what they're talking about, that sting, the next time it comes, is a little bit less painful. And so it continues the more you come in and go, well, what are they actually like? Now it's reached the point for me as an individual where I'm like, I'm going to take the aggressive stand. I'm going to be the one stinging you.
I don't have a problem with it. Meaning, if they come after your family, Neil's family, or my family, or anybody, other than the argument, you're doing it the way you would. I would do a similar thing, but a little bit different. They need to be told for sure.
Right.
Told off.
It's not them coming after my family because they're not. It's just words, right? But it's the second bit you said. It's not addressing the argument. It's merely a logical fallacy, merely an ad hominem attack. Attack the man rather than the argument. So we're detailing a lack of humility in our opponents. When we reach a winning point, we get laughed at. Rather than any acknowledgement of their loss, their point that's been demolished, then that is a display of lack of humility. Now, to turn that into, well, no, you beat your kids, or something like that, it's just like, you're not actually listening to what's happening. The argument or the discussion specifically is about us coming to a concluding point, which is obfuscated, taken around in a circle 5 times, and, so that the concluding point isn't having to be acknowledged by the opponent who's lost. Well, that just displays a lack of humility. That's it. That's the discussion. That's the argument point. It has nothing to do with anybody's parenting ability. It's merely a logical fallacy. Just an ad hominem attack. Now, am I concerned that they're saying it's about your family? No, it's an outrage when that is used as an ad hominem attack because it's really low.
Well, that's because they're low.
Exactly. Hence me labouring the point. Not because I think some dick in Discord's going to suddenly actually come after my family. No, it's all bravado. Nor is that the reason I get angry. I get angry because they don't actually acknowledge their lack of humility. They instead turn it into you attacking your kids with abuse. No, obviously that's not the point being made when we describe you as children and you and your lack of humility. But that's never going to get addressed either, right? I could turn back onto us with total projection.
You're a public channel. All kinds of people come on your show, and some have had really good parents, and they mind their manners, and they know where the line is. And even if they're thinking of something, they won't cross it because they got manners and respect for other human beings. Then you got the lowlife that comes in, and they embarrass themselves. Everybody knows they're the one with the problem. Not their accusation just doesn't stick anyway, because you just killed them on gravity or the black swan or the lack of Earth-based Coriolis. Next thing you know, they're attacking your son, your daughter, your dog, where you live, all this stuff. You say, wait a minute, what's that got to do with the argument? And now they're cursing. Everyone knows they lost, or else they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. It's obvious.
Well, no, that's the problem. Everyone doesn't know they've lost. When I described them occulting the conclusion, that's what it is. So when you reach the concluding point that should take some acknowledgement, if the opponent had some humility, which they do not, then the audience would have it clear that there is a conclusion to the point that's being made. Now that's obfuscated, and I describe that as occulting the conclusion, taking it round in the same circle so that all that's being heard is the argument rather than the conclusion. So it stops it being apparent to the audience. Quite the contrary.
Well, when I say everybody gets what's happening, who do you think I'm meaning?
Us, just us on the panel. My primary concern is the audience, however. So when someone on the panel's like, yeah, we get this, it's like, do we, us collectively watching this? No, not at all.
No,
we
but
on the
when
panel
you
get
explain it. No, but I'm not saying don't berate them for their fallacy or their non-manner way of, trying to get you go in a circle instead of, moving on with, you got to give an answer to this, and now you're circling back and starting the whole thing again. I'm not saying don't do that, because that's critical, because you're reminding the audience how they want to change the subject. They did this so that to trigger, so that they are not held accountable to answering the question. That still has to happen. I'm saying don't do that, but everyone gets it because we see you do it. We see you say, wait a minute, so now you're going to change the subject, you're going to attack something else, family member, etc., but you're not going to answer the question, or are you going to answer the question?
Right.
Now, see, the audience would get it. The audience would get it. And of course, you do that, and that exposes them.
That makes me feel a lot better, because that's obviously what I'm fighting or striving to achieve. Now, typically, that will be met with the airwaves being completely muddied, what we call rumpusing. In other words, constant noise so that cannot be detailed.
Yeah, a newbie for the first time doesn't know what rumpusing is. A newbie for the first time would say, what's he talking about? That guy is talking. Hey, Neil, is he rumpusing me in Discord? The newbie doesn't even know that you have two channels going.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this show's been going almost 3 years. So, the nuances of keeping control of the show are obviously, they get easier as time goes by, and more layers are added to retain various different aspects of control of the show. And people come along and go, well, you've got control of your show, it's an outrage. It's like when the people who when the people who come here who want to oppose me on a quote unquote neutral platform offer me this wonderful opportunity, they fail to appreciate that it actually offers me nothing. It's in sales, you'll understand this term, Tenth. What's in it for me? So if you're a salesman, you've got to find that aspect in the customer. They are going to be wanting something, and you've got to understand the what's in it for me aspect for the customer. Now, when people approach me, normally they call me a name and then demand I meet them at some place. It's like it's like contacting somebody by email and saying, I want to mug you, come to this dark alley. And then calling you a name. And you go, no, you don't seem to understand that there's nothing in it for me. Zero. Absolutely nothing. I've got a standard format email
Time
now.
out.
Go on,
Time
Neil.
out. I would like to hear you on 24/7 Arena. One night, just pop in.
Okay. But I do a daily show.
If
you can't get enough
I'm
of
not
it.
sure if I agree with
people that want to hear from
Neil.
you.
Sure. And they can on a daily basis. 2 p.m.
No,
UK time live.
In the arena. Come on, Chewy goes in
Neil,
and kicks
Neil,
freaking
talk to
ass.
me
You'll
about
do
that.
it too.
Let
Right.
Nathan be the fly on the wall here. Talk to me about it and see why I would disagree with that. Ask me.
Why doesn't Nathan go on 24/7, pop in the arena, and light up some balls?
Okay, here's why. Because Nathan already has a show, has a format, and he's running it to that. And guess who goes on 24/7? All of the people who have been on Nathan's show, and they say the same thing that Nathan said earlier that day or last week, and it gets represented, and everyone knows it. So Nathan doesn't have to go because someone else from the show went already. We don't.
There's a lot of people
It's not
that
necessary.
don't know about Nathan there. I hear it all the time. They're like, Nathan,
I mean,
you got to explain to
what do you
them who
mean?
Nathan is.
That's unfortunate.
No.
So the problem is, Neil, I've only got a finite amount of time. So right now, although the door's just slammed, my wife's just gone out. She's got to take care of the kids during this very specific time frame. Yeah, so that I can do the show. Now, once the show ends and the recording stopped, I literally disconnect from every single communication station, shut down everything, and then spend approximately half an hour uploading, sharing, scheduling, all sorts of other different stuff that has to be done that takes up time, right? Now, once that's done, just bear in mind, this is work. I know it might not seem that way. It's you watching as a show and you're like, nah, it's not work. You're sat in your chat. No, it is. I've chosen to
Not
work
me. I
as a
know you got
YouTuber.
work. I know his work.
I'm getting there, Neil. So I have to assess in terms of how much time I spend on things. Yeah. Now, while I am obviously also a flat earther and encourage people to go and subscribe to those channels, I often plug 24/7. And so does Chocolate, and so do various other people. Links get shared. They get plugged. So I'm promoting people to go to their channel during the time I'm broadcasting or recording. However, once that time is over, I do actually have a life to lead. I do actually have a family and things that I need to do. Now, within the capabilities of doing those things, I can edit videos. Sometimes it's difficult with kids running around, but I can do other things that are YouTube related. Can I sit and dedicate time? It's really difficult just to do Quantum Eraser's show. Very, very difficult. I don't moan about it to him, but, you know, obviously I want to support him in the same way he supported me. So I go out of my way to organise life around that, which is a considerable effort. So to just drop in to 24/7, that's a big deal. It's a chunk of time that I don't have. Time's very much my enemy. I don't have enough of it. So while I understand what you're saying, I have to weigh it up in terms of YouTube. Now, this is going to seem cold. Will it improve my situation on YouTube, or won't it? It's YouTube related, and that's what I am. I'm a YouTuber. So I have to assess it in those terms. Now, typically, given that I've just explained how my growth has come from things like shout-outs from Eddie Bravo and Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole and various other YouTubers, hence me wanting to shout out the other channels in the same way, I still have to assess whether or not it's going to be worth my while. Will it grow my channel? Will it expose me to X number of more people? And frankly, the answer is no. Now, can I return the goodwill and good gesture to 24/7 by promoting them? Yeah, I can. And I do. But that's as much as I can give. There's only so thin you can spread yourself, unfortunately, Neil.
Well, one night when you can't
I'm
sleep,
not done. I'm not done talking to Neil.
Hop
So
on.
before you start the show,
Oh, Neil.
one night when you can't sleep, pop on the arena, but make sure you let me know.
Okay, so one night when in the next room 2 children are sleeping, or my wife, I should wire up the mic and start screaming in fundies on 24/7. Is that what you're suggesting I should do?
Yeah. Yes.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Neil.
no. All right, let me tell Neil. So I don't go to 24/7. I did 3 times, 4 times, a handful of times, definitely under 7 times. And I listened, and they tolerate the ballers like you can't believe, at least at the time I was there. It may have changed now. So after listening to all this rumpusing and circle jerk and never answering a question, I pop in. Well,
The arena's different, though, 10th man.
well, let me finish. So I pop in, and they know I'm from Nathan's show because of the name 10th Man. And the minute I popped in, I get this. This isn't Nathan's show. We don't do that here. I go, do what? You let this guy ramble on for 45 minutes. He circle jerked you everywhere. The audience, I'm bored. I'm tired. This guy's running the show. Where's the moderator? And they said, well, we don't do it the way Nathan does it. And I said,
Yeah,
it's not
different.
about the way Nathan does it. The audience is sick and tired. This guy's so killed, jerking. So it's like, get a hold of your show here.
I've got no beef with 24/7. I listened to them today. So whilst doing the dishwasher, 2 loads of washing, changing several nappies, 24/7's on in the background. Does it mean that I can sit on my stool and chat to them like I was editing a video? No, I can't justify that time to do that. But are they playing in the background? Yeah. I've got them on. I'm one of the people in that chat. One of those 20 or 25 people that are watching live. That's me.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, the certain arguments, nobody handles it like you. And like sometimes I find myself in there like, damn, I wish Nathan was here to just freaking end this shit.
Neil, you're there. You end it.
No, I don't have the gift of gab like that. There's no way.
No,
I can
then
do it
then
like
learn it, and discipline yourself to have it, and then do it, and then voila, you represented the show over there, and that's what the Chocolate does, and others do. So it's being represented. I'm not saying don't go to 24/7. I just personally, like Nathan, I don't have the
talking
time
about
either.
the arena. The arena's different.
I've
Pop in
been
the
on the
arena and you'll
arena.
see what I'm talking about.
I listened to the arena. I know Miggy. You know, I watched it a few times. Okay, it's a brawl.
Well, I don't go in there unless QE's in there. If I see QE's in there, I'll go in.
Well, then learn from whoever you admire, and then start being a voice, and then you're there. You don't because people. One guy can't do it all.
But on the other hand, Neil, what I am observing, so most recent example of this is actually quite a shocking one, is Pete Shea. Now, you all know who Pete Shea is, I hope. I saw Pete Shea kicking ass in the chat. And what was he talking about? Well, he was talking about science. And he was kicking ass. And I've commended him for it. Several times, in fact. I've said, I've seen you, Pete. I've seen you using the arguments about science and kicking people's ass in the chat. And he's like, yeah. And then he insults me and calls me an actor or something. But anyway, my point is that I've seen other people that you wouldn't necessarily expect to just pick up on the arguments and go, well, I'll have a go with that. And then demolish people. And Pete Shea is an example of it.
Yeah. Still would like to see Nathan Oakley there.
I knew that was coming.
Neil, when I was, show's about to start, so, 4 minutes or whatever, but when I was in sales and marketing, people would say, hey, I really got this big client. Will you come with me? And, you know, if they were brand new, yes, because that's a good time to teach someone how to do sales and marketing. And, you know, it's just a list of asking good questions and caring for the customer. Like Nathan said, what's in it for me is what you've got to answer for the customer. Now, I had agents who've been in the business for 2 years, 3 years. Hey, I don't want to blow this. Will you come with me? I said, no. And they said, well, why? You're going with him? I go, yeah, he's new and he's got to learn. How many times did I go with you and you had the opportunity to learn, but you never took it? That's why you're so in the business, because you're not serious about it. I'm going to go spend time with a new person where the skills I'm imparting are going to be taken seriously, and they're going to act on it individualistically, meaning they're going to take ownership of it and run. I can't babysit 30 agents. I mean, imagine 30 agents saying, will you come with me? Will you come with me? Well, what do you think we train for?
Yeah,
so you can go
that's
out.
not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the presence of Nathan, the presence he brings.
Do you want to know you can have it? You can have it. I explained the problem. Now there's a solution to that problem. So currently, as it stands, just because I'm a tiny YouTube channel, to keep my head above water, I have to publish 2 to 3 videos a day. Daily. Every day. That consumes a huge quantity of time. So, if I can reduce the amount of work I have to do, and I basically get up and live, breathe shit YouTube, if I can reduce that, then I'll have more time to go other places. Just because I could do it for my own pleasure, as opposed to seeing it as a requirement to keep my head above water in YouTube, which is what I'm currently doing. It's non-stop battle. Now, I'm not moaning. Anybody who wants to try and be successful on YouTube either has to commit to it 100% and do everything in their power to try and be successful, or they will fail. Those are your two choices. So I've taken option 1 and thrown myself into it 100%, leaving me with 0 time. But, to give you the solution, if I can grow my channel, i.e. the overall input for one video yields a better result, I can dedicate less time to producing clips and the Uncut and After show and monitoring chat, demanding for hours on end that people share the show from the chat, etc., all of which takes up time. Well, if I can grow the channel, which is obviously the overall idea anyway, then that means I've got more time. That's the bottom line. So where you're saying nobody in 24/7 knows who you are, well, if those people knew who I was, and they were subscribed and increasing my numbers and my watch time and my revenue, I'd have more time because I wouldn't need to say, right, I need to produce another video to improve my stats. I want to be growing. If I'm suddenly not growing or I'm plateauing, I need to do more. So Corona was an absolute nightmare. Beginning of it, I'm thinking, this is wonderful. Everyone's at home. Oh, well, they'll all be watching my videos then. How wrong was I? Not at all. I took a massive, massive hit. It went down. Now, fortunately, I was watching the stats, so I worked like a dog, producing video after video after video after video after video to keep the stats at a plateau. I didn't improve, but I didn't take the huge hit that I would have done if I'd have just done nothing. Well, that, I was bordering on burnout by the end because it took a lot of work to try and sustain the channel, which is all I'm trying to do. And if I look at something and go, will this trip to 24/7 achieve something in that regard when my number one priority is making sure that I don't disappear into obscurity on YouTube? And the answer's no. I can't prioritize it, Neil. But if I'm like, well, clearly I've now got 20,000 subscribers rather than 18, that relieves the pressure that little bit. And so on and so forth. So if I can grow the channel, if you can come up with some idea of getting my channel out, because it's not getting out through the algorithm, it only gets out through the shout outs and shares, hence me babbling on about it endlessly and even delaying a live show right now to stress the importance of me plugging Arwin. Hey, Arwin.
Hey, what? Hello.
Just talking about how channels actually grow when we're in this community. And my growth only comes from an Eddie Bravo shout out, a DITRH shout out, and shares. They're the most critical. People actually smashing the share button, and that's giving it a reasonable chance of reaching somebody new, where it definitely won't just through the home pages and things on YouTube. Well, those days are gone, so it's like you've got to push to get growth in other ways. And it's sort of internal, unfortunately, because, but the external one is the shares, is the smashing the Facebook and the Twitter share, because that gets it out to whoever you're connected to, which is potentially random Joe, and therefore you're going to get growth from that. Anyway, I've got to start the live show at some point. So.
All right.
Anyway, hello, Arwin.
Hello. Yeah, I share your show at the end of my show, every show, unless it's the weekend.
I know you do, Arwin.
And you're in my hashtag list.
Yeah, I know you do. I see the shares. That's why I often will shut everyone up when you're plugging your show here, right? I'll clear the airways for you to do it. That's why. It's got to kind of give a take. Technically, you're a competitor. On YouTube, we're all competing against each other, right? Well, no. If you're all mutually inclusive and try and promote each other, it's mutually beneficial. Anyway, I've got to start the live show. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Arwin, Chocolate Saying, no, we're not joined by Chocolate Saying, it's Paul, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning, everybody.
Super enthusiastic Discord server. Maybe they're all on mute. Let's have a look. Yeah, they are. It's my bad. Babbling on about sharing the show constantly in the Discord servers. None of them are unmuted. There we go. Hello, welcome one and all.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
Good to have you all.
Hello.
Much better, much better. So, any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Nope.
Not from 24/7 Discord.
Shout out to 24/7 Discord. Subscribe today. So Darren and Ryan, I think both of you need to hover your mute buttons because you're causing all sorts of audio chaos. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No. Earth is stationary. The consequences that would be natural to a motion in an axial variety would be very measurable at all times and noticeable. And there's none of that.
Ryan?
That's not me.
Who is it? Is it Darren? Who knows? We'll figure it out. Any
I think
evidence
you just
of
fixed it.
any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Darren, can you pop yourself on mute, please?
Can you hear me? Can you?
Can, but you're also causing a load of the audio nastiness.
I'll put on mute. Hang on.
Thank you.
My apologies. My apologies.
It's all right, don't worry. But also do worry. A lot. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. No distance. No proof of a proximity. No proof of a physical nature.
It hasn't
Seems more
arrived
like an
here yet.
optical effect.
What is it?
It's that big yellowy orange thing in the sky.
Couldn't
Yeah,
tell
It's
you.
a
What is
light
the
in the
sun?
sky.
Yeah, that big light comes daily.
You get-
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What? Of what?
Any scientific evidence of the reification fallacy that is gravity?
I'm seeing it on screen right now.
The word. We know
Yeah.
the word's real.
Right. No. It's, any
They
displacement.
claim that we have weight.
That's right, we do
Yeah.
have weight. Depending on the medium.
They're, how do you say this? The way they describe it, there is no evidence at all whatsoever for that. There's just a word that's been misused to mean something that it's not, especially now when they say it's not even a force. So how can you have scientific evidence for a force that's not a force and they're willing to admit it's not a force?
Yeah,
Well,
so-
maybe John John D. I think he's trying to establish Newtonian gravity scientific evidence.
oh, he absolutely implicitly understands that he's definitely not trying to form a experiment. Arwin, no. I've been messaging
All right.
him. No, no. What he's doing is he's setting up a Cavendish. That's what he's actually doing.
Maybe because it's so complex.
It's so complex, did you say?
Yeah.
Hasn't it been out a couple of days now and it still hasn't moved, or a day, at least 24 hours, and hasn't moved?
So it seems. Well, I've asked him if I don't know, because he hasn't released any of this yet. He's still doing it, right? Whether or not he wants to come on and just detail what he's got. Obviously, he's been sending us screenshots, but just looking at the screenshots, it's not immediately apparent what's happening or what's not happening. So obviously, there's the text that he sent along with them to us exclusively, but hopefully he'll join. Hopefully he'll tell us about what he's doing, and or maybe he'll more likely put it together and get somebody to narrate it.
Was that the
When you
Cavendish?
label,
Yes,
go on.
yes, Neil.
I heard that people go mad trying to do that.
Well, that one guy, I can't remember. It's something Candles is the name of the channel. I can't remember the exact channel name, but a guy's describing. I think the guy's surname is Bowden, and a technician soaring up a Cavendish piece of apparatus because he got frustrated with it not being able to get it to work. So I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes. they say you wind up wrecking the whole experiment before you see any type of movement.
Well, okay, once we're into the begging the question fallacy that is assuming we've got a force called gravity in this apparatus, which is not an experiment, is observing it by creating an observed phenomena within the apparatus. Once we're into that begging the question fallacy, you've then got their 50 millionth of what the force of a gram would actually give you. Well, that 1 in 50 millionth is a tiny, tiny force. So often people say, well, if you're trying to only measure a 50 millionth of something, how are you ever... Who's making that noise? 10th man, can you pop yourself on mute? So if you've only got a tiny, amount, the slightest interference with it would skew the test. So, you know, slightest breeze from a spider crawling along next to it disturbs the air enough to skew that whole test. But the test is bogus to begin with, because you're not observing mass attracting mass in nature, and that whole rhetoric is now by the wayside because you've got Einsteinian bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space. So it's not asserted in the same way as it was asserted with Reverend John Michel, CV Boys, Cavendish gravity.
Well, that's what the point I was trying to make. They can call it anything they want. We don't observe it. We don't observe mass attracts mass. We don't feel anything pulling our body down as a force whatsoever. I lift my leg to walk. I don't feel something pulling it back. The equilibrium, disequilibrium, relative density. It's just, if the medium you're in, that's the greatest, simplest answer to what is the reason why an apple falls or things like that. But they've called it gravity because they need something to tie to their outer space.
Yes, agreed.
Right. Yeah, their gravity is all about balls. Well, R-based gravity and all that.
Speaking of they, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Still waiting.
They ain't got shit.
Yeah, we're surrounded by pseudoscientists, pretender clowns.
Right. They don't need it. They don't need the scientific method as long as they just get paid.
I didn't expect you to say that.
They do get paid, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, that might be true. Most people in what their endeavours lead them to get paid in some form or another. You know, this is not really that relevant.
Well,
Anyway.
they don't use the scientific method.
I don't know. We all know at a base level because we were all told in 5th grade. We're all taught the same thing.
Not now. They tell you ask a question now.
Yeah, but the method's still described, even with that silly first step, as requiring hypotheses. So it doesn't really necessarily matter which one you reference. Yes, some of them have got some farcical steps, but often we'll review the case study section. In other words, once you've observed a phenomena, you don't just immediately start formulating a hypothesis. We oversimplify it. What if somebody's already done it? You know, what if somebody's already figured it out a long time ago? So you got obviously there's going to be a research stage, but you know that's not really relevant to if you've got a phenomena that definitely hasn't got anything already figured out about, which is the assumption when we simplify it to the 3 steps: observe natural phenomena, formulate a hypothesis, perform systematic experimentation. Those 3 steps are oversimplified, but you know you can increase them to 20 steps if you want to. But you just have to descend it into fastity. Ask a question: will I have roast chicken tonight? Well, that's not open to scientific inquiry. Well, why is it the first step then? First step is observe natural phenomena. But, you know, that gets diluted down if you need pseudoscientists to write up the explanation of what science is if they're not using it. So they can just use certain aspects of it. You know, often it's the systematic experimentation stage. Well, we've done this repeatedly. So what?
Well, I mean, I'll push back as a glober. Now, you want to have roast chicken. Could your cravings be considered a natural phenomenon?
doesn't have anything to do with the chicken dinner that I'm going to be cooking.
Right.
It's not
I
a
understand
phenomena.
that, though.
This isn't a naturally
You
observed
said-
phenomena. That's the bottom line, right? Me having roast chicken's not a phenomena.
I know, but your cravings could be. That's what I'm saying. Like your cravings, though, of a roast chicken could be an actually occurring phenomena, couldn't it?
Right, but that's not the same question. That's what's the cause of cravings. Yeah, absolutely open to scientific inquiry, but that wasn't the question I asked. Ask a question. Am I going to have roast chicken tonight or not? Yeah, you can skew that into actual science if you try and find a phenomena that's being experienced. But
I'll tell you
I
one.
guess you.
that's not the question I asked, though, is it? And my
No, it's
question's
not.
not open to scientific inquiry, which makes the first question in Science Buddies, ask a question, seem nonsensical, which it is. Unless you're asking a question about an occurrence that you want to figure out the cause of, that question's irrelevant.
Well, no, you may not have roast chicken tonight because when you go to the store, there's no chickens on the market in the market. So you're not having roast chickens if there's nothing at the market to make roast chickens with.
I mean, for an opener
So,
to sort of Jack in the Beanstalk style story, this is wonderful. However, definitely it doesn't have anything to do with science, does it, Paul?
No, not really.
So first step, ask a question.
yeah.
Kind of seems silly.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to argue the way Zanuck would argue this. Zanuck would say you're in the wrong reference frame. You need to be the chicken asking, "Am I going to be dinner tonight?"
Well, the fox problem. Anyway.
Wait a minute, I know why the chicken didn't cross the road. He was going to be roast chicken tonight. That's why he didn't cross the road.
This is a Schrodinger's chicken situation.
We move on past this chicken.
I don't eat chicken.
Clearly not.
Get hungry.
Well, that was a nugget of truth.
Moving on.
Oh God! Too
Tumbleweed
soon.
sound effect still lacking. Right, moving on. Any evidence they are value? Earth radius.
Hmm. Is the Earth radius a circle? How is that circle
Google.
orientated?
It's spherical.
Oh, that kind of radius. Wait, no.
Google has proof.
Google.
Looking at a large body of water right now. It's flat as flat gets.
Nope. R is just assumed.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
There's no way to
Absolutely
test that.
impossible.
Say again, Ryan?
It's absolutely impossible.
I asked a question yesterday the Globers. Can gravity defy the second law of thermodynamics? I asked that question. If there's any Globers on here, see if you can answer that question or not.
Yes, it can. Because it doesn't exist.
Hold on.
Well, for the get,
What?
you talking to me or somebody else on Discord?
I'm talking to Arwin going, what? It can because it doesn't exist? What?
Yeah. If it doesn't exist, then it can violate every law. Because it doesn't exist.
It's the other
You
way
can
around.
think of what you will.
No, it's definitely, if it doesn't exist, it's definitely not going to be violating anything ever.
Exactly.
Non-existence doesn't violate natural law. Same goes for conceptualization.
Okay.
Go on, Paul.
Well, if basically increase in entropy is free expansion of gases into the available volume, that means gravity would have to defy that, because then it would keep the gases from freely expanding. So it would have to violate increase in entropy. It would have to.
Yes,
So then it would violate the second law.
Correct. It'd be a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, as we state almost daily. Correct. Also, although I can now say this because Anthony's now at peace with it, you can have your gravity. have your conceptual pseudo-Ramonian force-based bending and your Newtonian mass-attracting mass at 2,000% strength. You know what's going to happen? It's still not going to overcome entropy.
Well, I mean, and even if you think about it, even if they're using their rhetoric, just the randomness of the gas particles, and if you also kind of throw in quantum mechanics a little bit with the probability issue, eventually all gases, since they have to obey quantum mechanics as well, they would eventually occupy, all the potential probabilities. Eventually, they have to. So again, you're back to square one again.
Timed you out in chat for ad-homming me, Rumpus. What are you doing here? We don't need you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, maybe we need a... But I was muted, sorry. Before, now I forgot. Never mind.
I could hear you.
That was a great way to clear the airwaves, to only say nothing, Arwin.
Yeah, I was muted when I first said it, and then the thought broke off when I realized I was muted, so it's just terrible timing.
No worries. Right, we'll have to change the subject. Was there any housekeeping questions left? I think we covered it all, didn't we?
Oh, right, I know the joke again. It's we need an expand into the container movement for gas pressure.
Terrible. Wasn't worth the wait.
I thought so.
Did you do the giant?
Good try.
Did you do the giant gobstopper?
Gobstoppers? Everlasting gobstoppers? Schnozbrew flavoured?
The giant gobstopper, the molten iron core.
We did cover the molten iron core. It didn't get a response. It was on screen when I asked.
My bad.
Well, the everlasting Godstopper would also violate the second law of thermodynamics, technically.
That's
right?
correct. That is actually correct, yes. The everlasting gobstopper. Although it's implied that it just lasts a really long time.
I never thought about that. But
If the title of the everlasting gobstopper was true, it would absolutely violate the second law of thermodynamics. It's essentially displaying no entropy if that's true, which is a farcical thing to state. So yeah, good point.
I had so much envy of those kids when I was.
What, you wanted to be forced like a bullet through a chocolate tube?
No, the little star gobstoppers.
Here's another one for you. Only that which is immaterial can violate the second law of thermodynamics.
But the second law applies to the physical and natural world, not the immaterial, or the ethereal, or the conceptual. So, yeah, that's right, Paul. It's a natural law. That's right.
Yeah, the natural law doesn't apply to logic, to information, to what else does it not apply to?
Well, information's a good one.
God.
it's a good one. So it doesn't matter about the timing in this regard, but if you just look out, there's a tiger behind you. Does the quality or the amount of it break down with time? No.
You mean someone would say, look out, there's a tiger behind you? I would say he'd be lying.
He'd be lying. Boom, boom. Right, let's do a couple of shout outs. So shout out first and foremost to Flat Earth Fisherman, who's my latest member, joined as a hyena. So thank you very much indeed for joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. You can get the Uncut and After show, so the discussion we had about the importance of sharing. Not the most fascinating topic, but there we go. We discussed that in the pre-show today, and whatever we discuss when this live show is over will be available to yourself and any other Nathan Oakley 1980 channel members as soon as the recording is over. So I publish it immediately to the channel members, and then it comes out a couple of days later on the second channel, unless it's a late week show, and then they come out over the weekend. But anyway, also a shout out to Cleary. Thanks again, Flat Earth Fisherman, for joining. Shout out to Cleary, who says, is there a force that will cause you to float away? Thank you for the super chat. Also, shout out to RPJ, who says, "What's the matter, Globers? Chicken?" Very good.
Well, let me. I'm going to anticipate a Glober's response to what we just talked about information. The means by which the material thing that carries the information is subject to the second law, but not the information itself.
I'm stoked we got a fisherman.
Yeah, but it's the information that's the critical bit, because that's supernatural by nature. Therefore, can you apply this natural law? No, it doesn't apply to information. I did hear an attempt to tie information degradation in a way to the second law of thermodynamics, although it wasn't implicitly expressed that way. So on a show we have in the UK, it probably makes its way out of the two other countries as well, called QI, which stands for quite interesting. And the host described what he called the, let me get this terminology right, the half-life of facts. And he explained that throughout their show history, if you went back, if they're on, say, letter F at that particular show, or H, that would be more appropriate, half-life. When you went back to the show with A, like all those seasons ago, and looked at how the information that disseminated to the audience was correct or incorrect now, it had a half-life. You could calculate how much the information would be wrong by the time you got to the present. And it was this curve, and you're like, wow. So a lot of the nonsense you spurted out of your mouths on the first show is now just basically flat out wrong. Now, they gave an example, and they said, because they discussed or asked the question about how many moons we had, and the answer at the time was something like 12. And everyone said 1 and got it wrong, and obviously they then give you a load of bullshit made-up story from NASA about how many moons we've got. And then they move on to the present day and say, well, the answer now is something like 5,000. In other words, the information was wrong. Now, I would say that it's the half-life of just so stories, as opposed to the half-life of information. The fact that it's labelled information is a testament to what we receive and is labelled information, right? Here's your news. Well, there's a good chance that 90% of it's total lies, made-up stories, absolutely unjustifiable, to be proven wrong at a later date, however you want to phrase it, right? Now, if you understand that principle, and then you understand that half the time, when you've got these just so stories, they've all got this language that's peppered in the claims, which is the language of science, with words like experiment and words like repeatability and all these sorts of sciencey type words, science itself with quotes around it. Well, when you figure out that half the stuff they've told you is just a lie or just made up or is to be proven wrong at a later date, you kind of think, well, what is it that you actually have that does give you a genuine, realistic outlook about something? And well, one of the very, very few things that does give you that is science. And that's the very reason why these just so stories with a half-life are peppered with that terminology, because that terminology will lend the credence of empiricism required when you're making up a just so story, because we've all been trained. We all know science is empirical. We were taught it at school, the importance of it. So if you're going to make up stories later to be proven wrong with a half-life, it might be a good idea when you're telling those stories to make them seem as real as possible with these words. Well, we did an experiment. No, you didn't. But it sounds good, doesn't it? And it's convincing. And with those sorts of lies and those sorts of words, we end up on a bloody ball. With people antipodal to us hanging off the bottom of it. With a force that's not a force that you can think of as a force holding them there. That's where you end up with these hijackings of the vernacular of empiricism, science. So, yeah, just so stories have got a half-life, unfortunately, and that's most of what people receive as news and information. So, in that regard, you maybe qualify it with the second law of thermodynamics in terms of the amount of change that it's going to see over time. Anyway.
Well, at one time, they said the sun was 3 million miles away. Now they're saying it's 93 million miles away. So here they are saying we use science and it's 3 million. And now that same science says it's 93 million. So it's pseudoscience.
And the 93 million just comes from the assumption that Venus is the same size as Earth. Christian Huygens is the same size as Earth. Christian Huygens gives you the mathematics to land on 93 million mile distance to the sun. It's just an assumption.
Moon's in our atmosphere,
Just a quick question. How does a measurement cause something?
You can't cause things with measurements. Same thing as saying, well, my height causes something. If height, then X. No, that's not a valid independent variable. It's not going to be the cause of anything.
So even if we were to determine that the sun is 93 million miles away, that's still not a scientific question. It's just a measurement.
It's still just maths, yeah. If you could actually, what you're saying is if you physically got a tape measure and ran it out to the sun at the assumed value of Venus being the same R value as Earth with an assumed R value, it's so farcical. Nevertheless, if you were to take that tape measure out of those absurd distances, then you're still just doing maths, just measuring it.
Well, how about the next huge error on their part? The sun is a gaseous object in the middle of a vacuum of space.
Gaseous, it's burning gas.
Rumpus challenging me to our understanding of the rhetoric and how they've come to the actual distances. Yeah, Christian Huygens assuming Venus is the same size as Earth, an application of Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion. Yes, that's how you get those distances.
Well,
of course, Rumpus is
Rumpus. This is why they embrace the fiction in their science, Rumpus.
Yeah, Rumpus as a nameless, faceless troll can just lie and say, I've got it wrong.
No, you.
But ultimately, it's a useful way because he's going to now have me detail how I'm right about his Just So story. And hopefully he can come in and beg the question and discuss how his Just So story is right or wrong, rather than just highlighting it's all just a Just So story. You haven't got an R value for Earth. Christian Huygens absolutely assumed Venus had the same R value as Earth. We know that we don't have any of these things that you assume. Now, while Rumpus may have got away with saying, yes, we assume R, and that's perfectly acceptable to have this begging the question fallacy as the foundation of my religious belief in a sphere Earth. Now, we say no. Not only will you not beg the question of R, because you just say it's mandatory, we've debunked R. You can't have an R. You don't have a geometric horizon. You don't have this Earth curve geometry with this R value. Al-Biruni did not see that which cannot be seen by your very own words, Rumpus. Hence your total... You're not needed here, Rumpus. All I need is you to talk from shit from the chat, and I can pummel you with your lies. So I don't know why you keep coming back in. I've told you, you're surplus to requirements. Absolutely not needed. While you feel that you might get the opportunity to beg the question here and lie through your back teeth, whoever's not on mute, Ryan, can you go on mute, please? Whoever's causing audio chaos, it's really irritating. Thank you. Yeah, you don't need any more than him to say, no, you're wrong. No, I'm not wrong. You have absolutely assumed the Earth's a sphere. You admit it yourself. Scaredy cat, hey, Rumpus. Is that the best rebuttal while I pummel you? I don't need you here to pummel what you do. Hey, is that Sleeping Warrior? Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey, I just I wanted to join because I saw Rumpus in chat saying you don't seriously believe that assuming the same size as Venus is where they get the distance to the sun from, do you? I wanted to join just to show the audience that NASA cite Christian Huygens as being that authority. Nathan, if you wouldn't mind screen sharing.
Thank you for joining and confirming Rumpus's outright lies. And he's only lying so he can use this as an opportunity to beg the question and discuss the internal bullshit of his Just So story. However, he was not required here for us to pull apart his lie. He said no, in capital O, no. Yes, Rumpus, you're just a liar, hence surplus to requirements. And now we're going to prove you a liar.
So in 1656, Christian Huygens lived... This is, by the way, from... this is a NASA citation using Harvard. It comes from NASA. 1656, Huygens living in Paris had determined the shape of Saturn. It seems to be a round, ball-y thing. But anyway, and its ring with the aid of a superior telescope and his own analytical skills. Cassini's discovery was that the ring was divided into... Oh, shit. Shouldn't have done that. Huygens wanted to give the sizes of these objects relative to the size of the Earth. He knew the relative distances of the planets, but in order to convert his angular measurements into Earth diameters, he needed to find the distance from the Earth to the Sun in Earth diameters. Huygens solved this problem with an assumption. Ready, Rumpus? You ready? Paying attention? If Huygens supposed that the planet Venus had the same size as Earth, he could then calculate the distance in Earth diameters from his measurement of its angular size. Then with the Copernican theory, he could calculate for the time of the observation a theoretical distance to the planet in terms of the radius of Earth's orbital cycle. Knowing the same distance in astronomical units and in Earth diameters, he could then calculate the length of an astronomical unit in Earth diameters. He might then repeat the assumption with the calculation for Mars, and then eventually it says, where is it? I'm looking for the bit where he says it's quite ingenious. I might actually have the wrong citation here, but anyway, the point is...
The point is he solved it with an assumption.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Give me a minute, I'll come back to it. This might not be the correct one. There's one literally where it says it, so let me just have another look. It might be this one. No, it must be that one. I'll find it. It is in here somewhere, I'll find it. 2 minutes and I'll come back to you.
It's no worries. There's no pressure on us. Yeah, we've covered this on multiple occasions.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, I did read it. Huygens wanted to give the sizes of these objects relative to the size of the Earth. He knew the relative distances of the planets, but because that's Kepler's third law in interplanetary motion. He knows the relative distances. He's got the scale, right? He knows the relative distance of these planets, but in order to convert his angular measurements into Earth diameters, he needed to find the distance from Earth to the Sun in Earth diameters. Huygens solved this problem with an assumption. If he supposed that the planet Venus had the same size as Earth, he could then calculate the distance in Earth diameters from his measurement of its angular size. Well, if he doesn't suppose that the planet Venus has got the same size as Earth, he has no idea how far any of the planets or the celestial bodies are, and can't then apply that it is, or claim that it is any distance, because he's assuming it's based on Venus being the same size as Earth. Well, if he knows Earth diameter, assuming that Eratosthenes assumed that Earth was a sphere when he did his trigonometry for the distance to the Sun, then, or for his calculation for the circumference of the Earth, well, you're basing your assumption of Venus being the same size as Earth based on his assumption that Earth was a spherical object. Well, don't assume that Venus is the same size as the Earth, and don't assume that Earth is a sphere, and then all of a sudden you've got a totally different solar system in terms of relative distances. So yes, Rumpus, that is the assumption that Huygens made. He did assume that Venus was the same size as Earth. Sorry.
Yeah, but they're more than content because they're nameless, faceless trolls. To now, he's changed his tune now. He's saying, well, that's not the current rhetoric. Well, you just said no, like I was wrong. And now we've demonstrated that you're just a liar. Here to lie, to weasel your way into begging the question, and it's not going to be tolerated anymore, Rumpus. We've had enough of you. Yeah? All you're going to do is lie. So yes, you mean, not a concession, not, oh yeah, it's absolutely documented by NASA that Christian Huygens assumed Venus was the same size as Earth. It's just now not the current rhetoric. So when you said no with lots of O's afterwards, you meant yes, documented by NASA, and you were actually a liar. That's all that we're experiencing with these scumbags. Just outright lies, and Rumpus will more than happily lie to you and say that that's not the case. Well, it was the case. Now, if you're saying it's not current, what, you've got a new Just So story that you need to peddle, do you? Oh, well, not scaredy cat either. We demonstrated you a liar. And what did we get while that was happening? We got him telling us we're scared of him. No, you're scared of us proving you a liar. And that's what's just happened. And now it's capital letters current. Like that was what he was claiming 2.5 minutes ago when he said no. No, you mean yes. You're just a scumbag who will never concede and are now flapping like a little bird in the chat, which is all you can do. And that's all you'll get to do from now on. Flap in the chat. Lie to the scumbag chat.
Nathan, let me address the current, in capital letters, citation for it. And put me on screen again if you would. This is a citation from NASA talking about how they bounced radar off Venus. And I'll put this in the chat because this is actually a good read. There you go. So anybody that wants to have a read of this, find the heading Venus or Bust. It's about 15-20% of the way down the document while they're talking about fickle Venus. And when you find this document or this heading Venus or Bust, this is referring to the importance of getting a successful ping reflection back from Venus. Because it's basically, they need this for everything that they were dealing with at the time, right? And what I want to show you here is this. Of the 5 runs made, only 4 of the digital recordings had few enough tape blemishes that they could easily be edited and run through the computer. 2 of the 4 runs, 1 from each day, showed no evidence of radar returns. The others had 1 peak each. Price, this is Bob Price. This is the Bob guy that I was referring to yesterday or the day before. Bob recalled, when we saw the peaks, we felt very blessed. This is a bit like Becky, Dr. Becky. She feels very blessed. It was not absolutely clear, however, that these 2 peaks were really echoes. Green, who's the other technician, not scientist, but technician. We looked into our soul about whether we dared to go public with this news. Bob was the only guy who really stayed with it to the end. Bob's at JPL in America. This is being done at Jodrell Bank in England. He had convinced himself, that sounds like a delusion, that he had seen it. And he had convinced me that he had seen it too. Management asked us to have a consult look at our results, and we did. Thomas Gold of Cornell University looked at the peaks and said, yes, I think you should publish this. Green and Price published their findings on the 20th of March, 1959 issue of Science, 13 months after their observations in February 1958. So that is the current position, that they got ping radar reflections, and it was only when it was sent to JPL and other people looked at it and went, yeah, but let's be clear with what the actual position from the English scientists were saying. It was not absolutely clear, however, that the 2 peaks were really echoes. So
just a couple
interpret
of quick...
that however you want and go and cherry pick the sentences out of that whole document.
I'll just go a couple of questions. The timings for where they assumed they would get these pings back were based on Christian Huygens' assumption and his distances. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So when Rumpus says that the current measurement, which is this, that measurement is actually based on an assumption made by Christian Huygens in the first instance to give them the timings to assume when they'd get the ping back. So Christian Huygens, again, Rumpus is a liar.
Well, Rumpus is now saying in chat, oh dear, the measurement you are citing was the first measurement of the distance to the sun using radio waves. Since then, there have been many more since. Is that not just affirming the consequent, though? Like, so we've got one now, and we'll base all terrestrial claims based on this, and then everybody else does something similar and makes similar claims?
It makes no difference, because the first assumption was that Venus was the same size as Earth. And if you're going to confirm the timings based on Christian Huygens' assumption, then all you're doing is moving forward to validate the first assumption. So unless you've got Venus actually the size of Earth, and all you're doing is basing your timings on that assumption, then you're just, as you put it, affirming the consequent. If Earth is a sphere with a radius of this value, and Venus has the same value, then we will see a return ping time of X. And what do you know? Even though it's cluttered with a load of crap and we can't really determine it, we do get a return time of X. Therefore, we confirm our assumptions. No, that's just a formal logical fallacy as opposed to scientific validity with a measurement of a ping based on Christian Huygens assuming Venus to be the same assumed R value as Earth, as declared by us correctly and obfuscated and lied about by scumbag, liar, Rumpus from the chat. Now, there's no need for us to go over and over this with him getting an opportunity to beg the question, obfuscate this point that they've assumed Venus is the same size as Earth. That's the bottom line. It was done by Christian Huygens. It's documented by NASA. They haven't changed that assumption when they've done their ping measurements that they're not exactly clear about until JPL come along and say, oh, yeah. So we know the rhetoric. We know the story. There's no need for you to come here with your lies, Rumpus. When are you going to learn you are now surplus to requirements?
Can I just play devil's advocate for a moment? Imagine that I'm a pro-science, pro-heliocentric narrative scientist in an observatory somewhere else in the world, and I wanted to prove that my observatory was just as good as the Jodrell Bank one, because I've had umpteen $1 million of taxpayers from, let's just use the Chinese population as the example. I'm going to now go and reaffirm these statistics by claiming a successful Venus ping because my telescope is fantastic and the Chinese population should be dead proud. So I set it up and I fire it off there and it comes back and all my Chinese scientists all go, do you know what? I'm not quite sure, actually. It looks a bit ambiguous. Are you going to be the scientist that goes, yeah, our telescope doesn't work? No, you're not, of course. No, you're not. You're going to go and say, no, our telescope is fantastic, and the Chinese population have proved the distance to Venus, confirming the previous. It's never going to happen. No one's going to ever say, oh, actually, our massive telescope couldn't get it, and we couldn't decide, because you're proving your own failure. That's how science insulates itself with peer review, because nobody's going to go against the current rhetoric, especially when there's trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money from whatever country that might be putting into it. They're not going to go against that. They're all going to push the official story. That's how it insulates itself, and that's why we can't challenge it, because we're conspiratards. But we work out the logic and say, hang on a sec, you assume that Venus was based on the same size as Earth, and he assumed that Earth had a radius or a circumference measuring this because he assumed that it was a sphere. Well, no one's going to go against that, because you're seen as being anti-patriotic if you do, because you're not going to go against your own taxpayers, and that's how it insulates itself. It's nonsense.
Yeah, bottom line is we know what the assumptions are, we're happy to detail them, and when we do, we'll be told that we're lying. And when we point out that, no, that's absolutely how it's documented, we'll be told that's not the current rhetoric. And when we point out that the current rhetoric utilises the same exact assumption, we'll be told that there's new ones that have been made. And so it goes on.
Tell you what would be interesting. If we went back to those guys and said, don't assume that the Earth's got a circumference of whatever, and don't assume that Venus is the same size as Earth, and then look for a ping reflection of Venus and see do you get anything, and you'll get the same cosmic background noise that they got before. Nobody would understand anything, and the conclusion that we would then come to is, yeah, they're just lights in the sky. We don't know what they are.
But we can assume that they can actually send a ping and get a reflection off this thing.
No, I'm assuming that we get the same results back. Nobody understands any of it, and we just say they're just lights. You can't get a reflection off a light.
Yep. There we go. So there's the full-on nonsense with the assumption of Venus being the same size. That's why it's called our twin. Just because they just assumed it is. That little light in the sky.
It sounds like they peer-reviewed that, though, Anthony. So if it went through the peer review process, you had all these peers. They analyzed the data and they came together and said, this is right. Isn't that the way science works? The peer review process?
Of course. That is how it insulates itself from attack. And then how anybody that dare challenge it, you become a conspiratard. And we're just pointing out, hang on a sec, you're basing it on two assumptions that you have no evidence to support. But you go against the official narrative and you lose your career as a Dr. Beckyist. You become Becky from Witness then. You're not Dr. Becky anymore. You're just Becky from Witness.
Hello,
wherever she's from.
How you doing?
Hey, Nathan.
Hello. I think QE's got mic problems.
Well,
Yo.
Hello.
What's peeping, dogs?
Peeping?
Not a lot, John.
Can I add to what Anthony said?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think QE is familiar with this. Kings Dethroned by Gerard Hickson. Hello?
Go on.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's just someone was talking. So on page 3, it's talking about how Hipparchus made an assumption and how everyone who followed them went on that assumption. And it's the mess we're in because of that. It says here, just one little paragraph, if I can read. Such was the extraordinary conclusion arrived at by Hipparchus. And that statement of his lies at the root of astronomy and has led its advocates into an amazing series of blunders from the day to this. The whole future of the science of astronomy was affected by Hipparchus when he said, quote unquote, the heavenly bodies are infinitely distant. It's a great read. Pick up the book.
Cool. Very cool. Been a short pause. I'll do a quick plug. So be here or be sphere for Quantum Eraser YouTube channel's presentation live at 7 p.m. UK time, 1 p.m. Central Standard. That's tonight if you are watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980. The subject is going to be observed phenomena, correct?
Say that again. You're kind of low for me for some reason. What's up? What's peeping, man?
I don't know. I'm the normal level that I always am. I'm just plugging your show.
Oh, thank you. Yep. It's the last Toady toe tag in some clown show with like Pontchartrain, the thing we did before. So
Okay. You've also sent a clip. Can I play that out?
oh yeah, the M. Scott Reach.
Who's causing the echo?
Yeah.
Is it Anthony? Is it you causing that echo, Anthony?
Oh, it might be. Let me have a little look. Apologies.
Speakers are waiting.
Probably is. Usually is.
Of course it is.
Right, I'm going to play out this clip.
Booger eating M. Scott Veach, PhD, 30 June 2020.
So I could do signs on the shoe, right?
Yeah, sure, of course you could.
Wait a second, what? You could do signs on shoes. Another Brenda supporter, huh? Another signator. Naturally observed phenomena, shoe. Hypothesis, it's a shoe. Eh? You two bozos should get married. Your kids would have hooves.
Of course you could. In fact, people do science on shoes. I mean, you think the when they make, the new Nikes with the gels and stuff, they haven't done science on that? They have.
I just want to know how they go about doing science on the shoe. How you do it?
Same way they
go about that.
Same way they do science on anything.
Same way to do. Same way to do. Same way to do. Booger eating schmuck. My word.
All of that.
I know. I just think
process.
about the scientific method, because if you're going to use science, you're going to go with the method, right?
Again,
not really, but
not really. All right, cool. Well, never mind.
No.
So you don't use the scientific method when you do science. What do? Pick your boogers.
He said
So
not
what
really.
about
I just
let's say we were
away
though.
from it though. It's like you keep
Let's say you were. Let's say you were. What do you think the scientific method would need for you though? There.
What do you think the scientific method would need for you, though, there? Makes perfect sense. Goodness, sir. You're a moron.
I don't know. I just know, you need to observe a natural phenomenon, and looking at a shoe, it's not that.
Well, you think it's not natural?
Good Lord, I hope he doesn't think it is. PhD, booger eater, M. Scott Veach. You obviously think a shoe is natural, making you an exclusive member of the 1% Club. The dumbest 1% on the face of the earth.
Anytime you're using something that is going to help you test hypotheses.
Shit, hold on.
It's a shoe.
Yep. The Globe does that to people. Makes them come out with completely inane, stupid nonsense.
Well, let me play the devil's advocate like Anthony did earlier. Doesn't the shoe have to obey natural law?
You mean, is the shoe subject to entropy? That wouldn't be science either.
Is the shoe subject to natural law? You're being the devil's advocate? That's not the question.
I know, but I know that's where the Globers are going to go. They're going to say that since it's natural, it has to obey natural law. Which
unless it's against the model, then they would redefine the natural law with some other form of formula, and that, like they do with atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure is the correction for the violation of gas pressure next to a vacuum without a container, right? So they correct it with atmospheric pressure. They redefine natural law and then give you a just so story for their model. That's what they do.
Paul,
For good shoe, you need
the shoe
good
wear out?
cow skin.
Wait a second. The shoe inherently, or if you put it on your foot. Let's get specific.
Yeah, you need good cow skin.
It would have to, but in both, well, one scenario would be slower. Entropy would take slower. On your foot, it would be faster.
Hold on. No, not with entropy.
Hold on, sorry. Someone from
Drop
Discord.
it.
Hold on, sorry. Just someone from Discord said the cow skin is natural. And is that a concrete noun?
No. I said only how shoes it's made, and they're calling that natural.
Yeah, that might be the case. But what I'm saying is, to do science, you need something occurring. So a concrete noun. Let's say that you found a rock shaped like a shoe that was feasibly usable as a shoe. Unlikely, but let's just say that was the case, and it was carved by the ocean. Whatever. That's still not a phenomenon, right? It's still just a concrete noun.
I finished school for shoes, Nathan.
Am I offending cobblers?
Are all shoes made of cowhide? Let's get stupid with it.
I finished school for shoes, and it's made me.
Let's get stupid.
Look, okay, I don't mean to offend any of the cobblers' college, right?
Hey, my grandpa was a cobbler.
Nathan, I want to share this with you, if you would. Just screen share, if you would.
Yeah, sure.
I had a really good conversation with a guy called Wardy. He doesn't come in here. He's scared off. He's been told not to come in here. And we were talking about how you can't have gas pressure in a vacuum without a container. We've all seen the container that crumples in the vacuum, right? We've all seen this. I'm assuming that everybody's seen this. As the vacuum increases, after a period of time, it all crumples. Now, I asked him, what's the equal and opposite position? And he said, well, the container, no vacuum and then no crumple. And I said, no, the equal and the opposite position is this. Instead of having the container filled with a vacuum in the pressurized system, you would have the Earth as the equal and opposite. You would have the Earth as a pressurized system and the vacuums outside. But there's no container to have the separation. But he believes that Earth can have pressure next to a vacuum that was significantly stronger. The differential was significantly bigger. He believes that this can exist, but he accepts that can't exist without the container. And I'm saying, well, what's the difference? Because you've got the vacuum on the outside and you've got the pressure on the inside pushing outside. And if you accept that the reason why this contains is because the atmosphere is pushing down on it, because it's the pressure pushing that down on it. It's not vacuum sucking, is it? It's the pressure pushing down. What's the difference? Because you believe that you've got the pressure pushing out into the vacuum of space, but it doesn't actually do it on your model. But in real world, it must do, because that's what we can demonstrate. And he had a pause. And that was the moment where Wardy died as a baller. And he had to think of an explanation, because that is the equal and opposite position. The vacuum inside the thing gets crushed by the atmosphere pushing it down, not because vacuums suck, because the atmosphere pushes it down. So the equal and the opposite position would be the Earth's pushing out into space, but there's no container stopping it from doing it. So why does it not do it? And the answer, of course, is because we're not inside a vacuum, and we must be contained in some way, otherwise there would be no atmosphere. Does anybody dispute this, by the way?
It's not up for
but the equal and opposite position.
Not up for discussion. It's natural law.
Yeah, I think it's good. What does it have to do with the shoe?
I didn't want to talk about the shoe.
No, that's a bloody good point, Anthony. As much as, yes, it's nothing to do with the shoe. That therein lies the end of the assertion that we are a ball in a vacuum. We're not. It's a violation of natural law. It's a very good point. Well demonstrated. Thank you.
Yeah, if the atmosphere is pushing on the tanker and it collapses, then why is the atmosphere not pushing out into the vacuum of space? Because it has to be contained, otherwise the same would happen.
It's not a question of why doesn't it. It absolutely must, in line with everything else we observe always.
I
So
could give
it-
a baller explanations. Maybe it's because the bouncy balls outside were stronger than the bouncy balls inside the container. So the weight.
You know when you look at the high altitude balloon footage and you look down onto the Earth, and aside from the fact that it looks beautiful, Dr. Becky, instead of looking at it as gas pressure in a vacuum, the way that we describe it, just imagine that you're looking into a bucket of gas, and all the gas is pooling at the bottom, right? Not because gravity, because we know gravity is not a force, right? It's not doing it because of that reason. It's doing it because there's a gradient and it's created by the biogeochemical cycle. And that's why it's not immediately evacuating into space. The fact that that exists proves that we must be contained, because in an open system in a vacuum, you would not get any cycles. It would all disperse into space immediately, violently, and just like that container crushes.
Perfect. So once again, another plug for Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. That's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time today for those of you watching live, or 7 p.m. UK time on Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashing the super chat. I think there was actually one extra super chat that I didn't read out. Yes, there was. Rakia Life. All my questions are answered except one. What the blank? I'll wait for the answer. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Rakia Life. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
The shoe conversation. Sorry, John.
I got one for the shoe.
Oh, I was talking about fucking Kiwi's shoe.
Nathan Oakley's shoe will heal the baller's soul.
Yeah.
I step into that one. I step into that one, John.
Yeah, I think Euclidean will never be topped.
Yeah, Euclidean me.
Euclidean me.
That was great.
Yeah.
That's right. You only need one number one hit.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm a one-hit wonder.
Are you kidding me?
That was a big hit, man.
He's like the Crickets, a one-hit wonder. Remember that?
The Crickets? It wasn't the Crickets.
Yeah, it was the Crickets. Who was it?
The crickets be peeping?
Oh.
Who was the first manufactured man?
That's not the Crickets. That's the Wonders. With that thing you do, man.
Yeah, that thing you do. That's right. That's right. It was the Wonders. God, QE 248 can't beat it.
Who was the first manufactured
You're
boy band?
lowballing me, dude.
Sorry, did the channel just change to Trivial Pursuit? What's going on?
Yeah, man, we know the Earth is flat. It's over.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
we're smoking them if we got them now.
Hey, chocolate.
Morning,
Nathan,
guys.
I'm thinking of Nathan, I'm thinking of starting a shoe company since the ballers show so much interest. I just need a soulmate as a partner.
You can't.
Really?
No.
I'd offer you Rumpus, but he sold his soul years ago.
Yeah. You're going to have to work a lot harder for that Euclidean me. Because
that was done.
Euclidean me.
That Euclidean was done long ago on Bev's MIUK show, by the way.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, Spot On did it.
Oh.
But that's
Hold
that
on a
show.
second.
That's that show.
That's mine.
Uh-oh.
Neil has it for this show.
Shots fired.
Neil has it. Hang on, Neil has it for this show, but Spot On has it for that show. So just saying.
Can I just break down what's going on right now, right? 10th man's punning ability has been challenged, right? And the challenger has had investigations done.
No, it wasn't even.
Sounds like a baller.
Hey, Neil, tell him to forget about it.
No, that's not correct.
Forget about it. It's mine.
He'll be after your earnings next. 10th man is on the case.
I gave credit to Spot On who said it. It wasn't my punning ability.
What have you got to say for yourself, Neil?
It's the pun wars.
I'm gonna have to go on MAUK and straighten this out.
That's right. Copyright strike.
Yeah, and what about this wordy? Who told Anthony? You said that he was told not to come on the show? By who?
Oh, Wardy. Wardy won't go on Nathan's show because he thinks that because he gets told by all the ballers that Nathan is just a bully. He just believes them, but if he came on here, he'd be dead within 30 seconds of talking.
Can I ask you a favour? Can you turn your mic down by like 5 or 10? Because you're like 10 dB louder than everyone else on G+, Anthony.
I can turn my gain down a bit.
You got all kind of audio chaos behind you too, man.
Yeah.
It's a washing machine.
Yeah, turn the gain down, right down. You're way louder than everyone.
I've turned it down.
Are you sitting on
your gain is so...
Yeah, what are you doing in your laundry room?
It's not that. Its gain is so high, it's picking up the bloody washing machine.
Man, why are you peeping, dog?
It's not that I've got the gain that high. I've got my gain really low. It's just that the washing machine's coming through the door behind me, and I can't shut the door.
Well, you're a bit better now. You're a bit closer to everyone else in volume, which is better. Anyway,
yeah.
Issues aside. Good.
Hey,
good
gang.
description.
Sorry to interrupt, Nathan. Jazz Aconda here. It's been a while.
Hey, Jazz.
Quantum Horizon.
Are you sober, Jazz, or are you drunk?
You sound sober.
Yeah, no, good as gold, big fella.
Sounds good to me.
So we might have a conversation then. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I was just actually wondering if we could have a conversation about I don't know, about the atmosphere, gas pressure or something, if you guys want.
Atmosphere. That's
Absolutely.
a contradiction in terms.
We start there, Huey. Do you want to explain that to him? Yep. The word you used is actually a contradiction in terms. Atmosphere.
Who thought it was a contradiction in terms? Quantum.
Yes, because atmo means gas or air. Air is a gas. Sphere means shape. Gas, quintessential tenet is it has no inherent shape. Therefore, it's a contradiction or an oxymoron. Thank you.
Well, it's not actually, but anyway,
not actually. Hand wave dismissal. Huh?
Actually, no. Hang on.
Well done.
Because what you're going to go to is the gas pressure in a tire. I'm guessing that's what you're going to refer to. That's in a circle. So is that an atmos circle?
So your question is that tire example that we haven't given you yet an atmo circle?
No, I was just anticipating because Quantum said that it's spheres.
Yeah,
it's called an inflated tire.
Yeah, well, in the tire example,
never anticipate. You wait for the preparatory command, but you never anticipate. You got that? Stop your peeping, brah.
So gas tends to.
I have to yell, man.
When you assume.
Make an ass of you and me.
So,
sorry, go ahead, Con.
Okay, so let's just round that out. So at equilibrium, gas would take the shape of its container. It's spread out evenly in the containment. Now, that's notwithstanding that we have dynamic systems, but as a general rule, if you're going to use a tire as an example, it's just going to reach an equilibrium within the container.
Yeah, but we're jumping ahead with his second peeping. He didn't deal with the first peeping.
No, hang on. Nathan was onto it, which was what I was saying about what I said about the atmosphere. Doesn't matter about what the sphere and the atmos and all that sort of thing is. What we're talking about is
because your first thing that you did was put the air in a container.
Yeah, in a sphere container.
No, it doesn't matter about the container. Do we agree?
No, apparently it does because you use an example with a container.
Atmosphere.
The tire.
I never said anything about a container.
Okay,
I
fine. Just
never
call it.
said
Okay,
anything
no, we can
about a
end this. It's no worries.
container.
Just so, hold on, everyone, calm down. Hello, just so we can move on. Can you just call it air rather than atmosphere? Are you capable of that?
Okay, air.
Perfect.
The air we all breathe.
Perfect.
Which is that's a great example of using for what we're about to talk about, Nathan. That's brilliant.
You've got the mic. You're controlling the conversation at the moment, Jazz. So what we talk about is kind of down to you.
Okay, so do we... I know there is, but do we... If anyone's ever travelled on an aeroplane, on an airliner, do we agree that there is a pressure gradient?
Yeah. So, yes.
Hang on, Quantum. Don't get ahead of yourself here, but big fella.
I don't anticipate the peeping, but you deleted the first peeping.
You're way ahead of yourself now already. Calm down.
Okay,
you get that pressure in first instance.
Guys, hold on. Let him
You're
get
a
to the
wily
end.
one.
Let him get to the end. We are all in agreement, Jazz. Yes, there is a pressure gradient.
Okay, so if there's a pressure gradient, we won't go into how or why that happens. What I'd like to know is, if the Earth's flat, how does that pressure gradient automatically change from a pressure at sea level to nothing at height?
It doesn't.
If that's the case, then we don't need a dome.
It doesn't. That doesn't happen. What you've just described is a second law of thermodynamics violation. It doesn't go from 14 psi or thereabouts at sea level to nothing. That's a violation of natural law. That doesn't happen.
No, but it does, though, man. It does. That's why when you hang on. That's why when you're traveling in an airliner at 35,000 feet with your children, the first thing they say is,
"What were they
wearing?" There's a rapid depressurization. Hang on. If there's a rapid depressurization, the first thing you need to do is not worry about anyone else. You put the oxygen mask on your kids because they are the first ones that are going to pass out, because at 35,000 feet, you've got literally seconds before you will conk out and you won't be able to save your kids. And if you get your kids' oxygen mask on, you get your oxygen mask on.
Yeah, we know this doesn't need an endless description. Thank you. So you're saying there's less air up high. Well, yes, that's true. We agreed to that. But that doesn't mean that it dissipates to zero. That would violate natural law. Because if it was zero, that would mean it was just an empty void for the gas to fill. Now that violates natural law. You're imposing this idea of a void simply because there's less as you get higher. We can explain that too if you like, but you said you didn't want to get into the whys and wherefores of why it's less higher.
Okay, Nathan. Well, this is why you might have to explain this to me.
You ever been somewhere where there's no air?
Hang on. How does you just agreed to a pressure gradient? How does it?
A gas pressure? Hold on. A gas pressure gradient?
Hang on.
The gas pressure gradient.
Hang on.
Let's just give him a little altitude. Go on, Jazz.
How does, this is what I'm asking, how does, you just agreed to the pressure gradient, how does the air pressure decrease per 1,000 feet, 1 hectopascal per 1,000 feet up to 10,000 feet? How does it decrease to a point at 35,000 feet where the air pressure is so little that you literally have seconds to live? This has happened.
Okay,
rapid depressurizations.
Yes, thank you. You're going to go on and on and describe something else now, or do you want an answer? Jazz, we've heard your question. Do you want to babble on incessantly, or do you want an answer?
I'll take your story.
Okay. A story that we were all taught in about 7th grade about gas cycles. They're produced at ground level. So at 35,000 feet, how many trees are there at that altitude producing gas? Just out of interest. Is it none at that altitude? So there's less gas being produced, therefore less gas. Now, the reason it's up there at all is because of entropy. That's how you describe the process of it getting up there. So although it's produced at ground level and there aren't any trees, surprisingly, the gas that was produced at ground level made its way up. Well, as there's no response to that, I'll just conclude. So regardless of us having a gas pressure gradient, to first have gas pressure would require the antecedent of containment. So first you'd need something to contain the gas to achieve gas pressure, like in your tyre. Then you can develop this complex gas cycle, with there being less at the top and more at the bottom. Well, the gas cycles won't develop at all if you don't have containment. First containment, then gas pressure gradient. So without the container, there can be no pressure. Therefore, it doesn't dissipate to a sky vacuum, as you described in violation of natural law, Jazz.
No, I never did.
Yeah, you did. You said it dissipates to zero. That's in violation of natural law. You absolutely did. And we're also pummeling it. So yes, you did.
Two completely different things, my friend.
He's arguing for the gradient. I don't understand it.
This is something we conceded earlier, though, isn't it? We all agreed that there's a gradient. Nobody disagreed with it. It's what's called a red herring.
That's predicted.
It's not called a red herring. It's a fact. You can go up in an airliner and experience it every day of your life.
That's fascinating, and it proves precisely nothing.
Wait a second. You're whistling past the graveyard, though. Where'd you get the gas pressure to begin with to have gas pressure gradients?
Quantum. This is where you fuck yourself over. There is no such thing as gas pressure on the surface of the Earth. It's atmospheric pressure.
Oh, we covered that.
Atmosphere, that's a contradiction in terms.
We covered that right at the start, though, didn't we, Jazz? You just whistled past it and then agreed to call it air. But you've now, reneged on your agreement that you wouldn't call it atmosphere because it's an oxymoron and you'd call it air. Now you're falling back on that as an argument, having said you'd call it air. Because
I said this right from the start.
Atmo means air. Sphere's a shape. Yeah, sphere's a shape that you've arbitrarily assigned to gas, making it an oxymoron. But the atmo bit means air. Something you conceded to. You said, yeah, I'll call it air. But now your previous incorrect oxymoron description as air sphere is now being used as an argument. You understand the problem here, Jazz, right?
Okay, Nathan, do you understand the problem that you don't understand what gas pressure is in terms of atmospheric pressure as to where we are on the surface of the...
So atmospheric pressure again, completely ignoring every word I've just said then, Jazz. So we've come to the point where you're becoming a wanker. So I'm going to tell you off, you drunken fuckwit. Stop calling it atmosphere, it's an oxymoron. You drunken Aussie fuckwit.
I'm not Aussie.
You are a drunken fuckwit now getting told off because you're repeatedly using this oxymoron of air sphere. Arbitrarily assigning it as a shape and using it as a defense when you've already conceded to just call it air. So, you dumb fuck drunk, shut up!
Nathan.
Shut up! You dumb fuck drunk! You're an embarrassment to your nation. You understand me, you drunk fucking idiot? Shut up with your stupid nonsense that we've pulled apart and are now having to tell you off because you consistently repeat this shit that we've pulled apart and are now taking a giant dump on and calling you a drunken fuckwit for your continual asserted nonsense. Now shut up!
You are fucking...
Shut up! Don't swear at me when I'm telling you off, you obnoxious Aussie prick with your drunken nonsense. You're a buffoon! You deserve whipping in the street. Metaphorically, I would drag you outside and lash you, you stupid fucking moron. Now shut up! We've pulled apart your nonsensical bullshit. Now it's time to sit down and shut up. Have some humility, you stupid buffoon. Understand how wrong you are. Understand how we've pulled apart your nonsense.
You You need help, man.
No, you need an ounce of humility. You are identical to every single scumbag who comes here. You are no different. You are not special, Jazz. You're just a bigger dick as all of them. You've had your argument handed to you on a plate. We've gone round in a circle 3 times. We've been very polite to you. Quantum Eraser's even been tolerable of you interrupting him like a prick. Now we're telling you off!
Quantum Eraser's just as bad as you.
You are a moron! All you can do is talk through me telling you off.
Because you're a dumb...
No, because you are a fuckwit. You haven't got the vaguest clue what you're babbling about, and when we point out your errors, all you do is talk through us and demand more time to spout nonsense. I am sick of it. I'm sick of you assholes.
And now you're going to cry about it.
I'm not crying, right? Let's just do this, because every time it comes up, I've got to put my lights on, put the camera on, and show that I'm not emotional about this. I am tired of asshole liars having their asses handed to them and then refusing point blank to have one shred of humility.
Nathan, you can't help being wrong. That is your problem.
You moron.
See, even in the face of being told off, he's still going to tell me I'm wrong. The arrogance is off the charts. This is what we deal with. This, by society standards, is apparently acceptable. To behave like a complete clown, have your argument taken to pieces, and then behave like a spoilt child tearing the place up because you've been demonstrated a fool. That's what they do. I'm going to cause audio chaos because I'm getting told off for my abject stupidity. That's the behaviour we have to tolerate here, and it's insufferable.
It's a shame, Jazz. You've been doing this for years, and this is really what you got.
I still like to know what his argument was.
You know, when you push him, he always does this. Just turns into a troll.
He's saying there's no gas pressure on the surface. Is he out of his freaking mind?
Yeah.
I got a real, like, the Boyle's Law really helped figure this out for the globalists. Because you can't put 0 into Boyle's Law. It causes an error. Therefore, there is no 0. It will never go. You can never divide.
Right. If the pressure's going to be directly proportional to how much surface area of the container you have in Boyle's Law, and you take out the V, the volume, the container, you can't perform the function of the maths to work out how much the pressure is going to be influenced by the size of its container. So in other words, Boyle's Law completely falls to pieces if you don't have a container, because you require one. It's a necessary antecedent. The gas pressure is the force exerted on the container walls.
Wow, so even mathematically it's impossible.
Which apparently Jazz knows, because his first example was to put it in a container, aka tire.
Right. So you can't even define gas pressure without a container, mathematically. How about that?
That's what I really learned one time when I was, because I did a lot of scuba diving in the past, and this guy was like talking about flat Earth, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't work. This flat Earth model, this is when I was a global. He's like, well, you all know Boyle's Law, right? I'm like, well, yeah, that's scuba diving 101. That's like the first issue. He's like, put a 0 in that. And I was like, oh, oh shit.
Yep, one of many.
What happens when you put a large number in the V? What happens?
The pressure goes down.
And you can demonstrate. You can sit there. You can take a globalist down, like just 30 feet, just slap a regulator in his mouth, and have a bottle, like just a 20-ounce soda bottle, and you can demonstrate Boyle's Law for them, and and make them crap their pants, like right there in real.
No, they won't crap their
Then
pants.
you can.
Do you know what they'll do?
Oh, sorry.
They'll say, no, that doesn't apply to atmosphere. Exactly as Jazz did. That's what they'll say. That's their response. Air pressure.
Yeah, then you just.
Air pressure on a fundamentalist religious zealot's view of a sphere isn't the same as air pressure as dictated to them by natural law. No, it's very different if you've got a fundy belief in being on a sphere. That's their defence. My air's different. That's their defence.
No,
my air
they'll
takes
come up
spherical
with a
shape.
second one too.
What's the second one?
It doesn't apply because Boyle's law only deals with ideal gases.
Oh God.
Yeah, I've had that one for gas law as well. I say gas law. They say, no, you mean ideal gas law. And you're like, yeah, the simplification that describes the law so that it's applicable in a broad way and understandable to more people. You think that because it's been simplified to describe it, that means it doesn't apply to all of the gases that it's describing? No, it definitely applies. Just not applicable to a sphere in a vacuum with gas violating all of those laws. That's why they fight against it. And in some instances say the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth. That's the extent they'll go to. Hey, we have actually got a top 3. So in at number 3, shall we do the music? Dun 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 dun. And here we are with Top of the Fuckwit Pops for an answer to how can you have gas pressure without a container. In at number 3, it's the Rumpus with the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth. Dun 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 dun. And down 1 at number 2, it's the Redneck Retard with a demonstration of gas pressure, quote, without a container, by way of 2 containers. Dun 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 dun. And Top of the Pops, fuckwit number 1, it's Thunderfoot Clown by changing gas into a solid with bonded bouncy balls. Dun 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 dun.
What do they win?
They win number 1 Fuckwit of the Year award. I didn't think we'd get to
really bad.
Top 3 rebuttals for how can you have gas pressure without a container. I never thought we'd get to a top 3 fuckwit responses, but here we are.
He thinks because he flies a plane, he's got authority.
Sorry, go on, Neil. Someone's laughing through you.
It said he thinks because he flies a plane, he's got some sort of authority. I've been in planes.
Yeah.
What's that?
Have you never met a pilot before? Have you never had a conversation with a pilot before?
Yes, I've had.
They have this air of, I am basically wonderful. That's the air they give off.
That's right. They do. Yeah.
Are newcomers allowed to talk on this?
Of course, anybody can talk.
Well, it depends on what your peeping is, dog.
Well, I have a little thought experiment that I've been thinking about. Can I share?
Yeah, what that
was. Go ahead.
Are we? You guys like closed systems, don't you? So we're quite comfortable with a closed system.
We understand what a closed
system
like,
is. If the kind of general behavior of a system changes, but nothing on inside of it's changed, it doesn't seem like a closed system. Something on the outside is affecting it.
Well, what's the definition of a closed system?
If I have a balloon and magically say all the air rushes to one side, it doesn't see something must have happened. That hasn't happened spontaneously.
Can you show me that happening first?
No. This is all hypothetical. This is me just. Do we understand that if something changes dramatically, something has probably affected it?
Can you give me an example of something that does actually happen in reality, though, so I can think about it as opposed to?
Well, I'll move on maybe because that's besides the point. Do you know that that jar that you guys talk about with all the fluids of different densities, and they arrange themselves with the highest density at the bottom,
The density tower.
and like oil and
yeah.
If that's what you call it. Okay. Imagine if you put a lid on that. If you like screwed a top on or something. Would anything change?
No.
No, I don't think anything would. If you put a lid on it, if you screwed it on the top, make sure it was very nicely sealed, and you put that in a vacuum, would anything change? I don't think it would, but would you think if it was sealed, if it was nicely sealed with a screw top,
hypothetically
would
sealed
anything change?
Hypothetically sealed and strong enough to not have any impact. Would anything change inside the container if the outside was a container? Was a vacuum? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't change. No. Right. Now, you're on Earth, though, aren't you? Imagine somehow you've made a vacuum chamber on Earth. That's really good. It's a perfect vacuum. And we're on Earth. This is just a thought experiment. I don't want to have to go find a vacuum chamber that works. You have this jar. All the fluids are stacked up in the right order, and it's sealed. It's in a vacuum. Nothing, no atmospheric or air conditions are affecting it. You don't like atmospheric, so I won't say that. Imagine if you turn this jar upside down, just in your hand, with a robot, with a clamp, with something. What would happen to the fluids inside this jar?
They'd mix up and then find equilibrium again.
That is pretty much spot on. That is exactly what I would have said. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the jar, the insides of the jar haven't actually changed. If you were say fixed with the jar, and you turned upside down, the jar remained in the same orientation relative to you because you were fixed with the jar. But the jar relative to the vacuum chamber and relative to the rest of whatever we live on has turned upside down. How come the fluids have changed? What's caused these liquids to rearrange themselves?
They didn't.
Nothing from the outside has changed.
They didn't. I said they mixed up and then found the same exact equilibrium. They didn't change.
How would they mix up and find the same equilibrium?
Because the equilibrium remained
they rearranged
exactly the same.
them and...
Sorry, is it just me answering with you talking over the top of my answer?
I think my Discord's lagging a little bit. I can't quite when you there. Okay, you're back now.
Yeah.
So say you had like a wine bottle.
I get the chance to answer your question and correct your error. Maybe you're just talking definitely. Yeah. At this point, right? I'm gonna hold off telling you off. I'll just give you a calm, polite request. When I talk,
I appreciate that.
When I talk, do not talk. Like I didn't talk through you. Yeah? Simple. So, you assert that they changed. No, they didn't. They returned from whence they came because you altered them by injecting some physical motion by turning it, but then it returned to exactly the same way it was before it found its equilibrium again. Nothing changed, as you asserted. That's wrong. Sorry, did you just talk through me before the end of my sentence? I think you did, didn't you? Am I going to have to start swearing at you? You're now doing it continually, aren't you? Shut the fuck up while I talk, you ignorant prick. I will reach the end of my statement without you fucking talking. Do you understand? That's not rhetorical. I expect a yes.
Yes, but do you mind...
Now shut up!
Come to the end.
Shut the fuck up then! You stupid moron. Don't immediately give me the answer I'm asking for and then fucking waffle on. I'm not giving you permission to carry on. I'm telling you to shut up. How stupid are you? That's rhetorical. Don't answer. So, you incorrectly asserted that there was a change and asked me to justify said change that did not occur. You put some input by altering the orientation of the jar, and then it returned to equilibrium. No change. Return to equilibrium.
Was that the end? Sorry.
If you just turn the container, then the orientation has not changed.
Imagine, so if you had something like a wine bottle with a very clear top and a very clear bottom.
Yeah, we've heard the example. Was the stunned silence followed by, do I have permission to talk? Was that an acknowledgement that you didn't have a point upon there being no change to justify? Was that what just happened?
Of course, it's a wine bottle.
I'm not sure the point you're trying to make. But
I'm not making a point, you fucking clown. This is your point. Are you retarded? You asked for permission to make a point, and now you're asking me what my point is. No, you don't have a point unless there's a change to justify after you've altered something in this example that we're hypothetically imagining. Now, there's no justification for any change because there hasn't been one, other than the one you induced when you altered the orientation and everything then returned to equilibrium. Now, beyond that, you don't have a point, it seems. You, not me.
So the wine bottle,
So you don't have a point, it seems. Not time for a new example, clown show. An acknowledgement that you didn't actually seem to have a point in all of that nonsense.
I like to think there was a point, yeah.
What was your point?
The closed system of the bottle internally did not change. All you changed was its orientation, but it was in a vacuum. Something outside the bottom has caused the fluids within it to rearrange.
No, they didn't rearrange. Did you not just listen to my response that was shouted at you? There was no change. It returned to equilibrium. So your point is to reintroduce this assertion that I've already corrected? You're going to piss me off. No change.
When you say... if you have a Coke bottle, do you mind just...
I mind if you don't acknowledge it for a second fucking time? No change. Acknowledgement, please, clown show.
I think so. To be fair, I agree with you, but there's.
Well, then shut up! You've just wasted 10 minutes of our life. You absolute retard. Sit down. You don't have a point. You've wasted our time. Do you understand that, you stupid dick? You've just literally wasted 10 minutes of our life.
Well, at least.
So you do not have a point. You utter retard.
Good for you, Nathan. Do you mind?
Good for me? What, you being a clown wasting everybody's time is good for me, is it? No. You've just got no humility and you're now trying to project this onto it being a waste of my time, which it absolutely is. You have wasted everyone's time with this total nonsense that went nowhere and had no point. That was what I was trying to get you to concede and have an ounce of humility and say, yes, I appreciate this total shite, had no point. And that silence that I highlighted when I point out that without the change, you have no point. You are still yet to acknowledge that. No point. Waste of our time.
The liquids in that bottle have not...
Own time for a new example. Maybe a rendition of the same shit. You had
But they have changed relative to the bottle, Nathan.
Are we going to go around this fucking circle another 5 times? Because this cunt doesn't seem to understand that we appreciate... Go on, Q.
I got a question. What was the point of the vacuum chamber? What point was that?
I don't quite. You guys seem to like to fight. I'm just trying to get this system as isolated as possible, really. You like kind of talking about densities and buoyancy, and I just wanted to make sure nothing could affect it. All I'm doing is trying to set up a almost perfect experiment.
I see. So you heard this word isolated used by people who understand what science is, and you've interpreted this word isolated to mean stick in a vacuum, even though it's completely pointless and meaningless. Even though when we talk about isolation, we are talking about the isolation of independent, dependent, and control variables. So when we say isolated, we don't mean in that way.
No, that's fair enough. I understand.
I'm a stuttering fucking retard. From now on, sit down, shut up, and understand how stupid you are and how little you have to offer to this conversation.
Yeah, Robo, are you from Facebook?
As in, I found a link on some group. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Okay. As I say, I'd rather he just sat down and understand not only how stupid he made himself look, he made himself look, but how much of our time he's wasted with his abject stupidity that he's still yet to concede. You had no point and you wasted our time.
And he wanted to move on to a Coke bottle.
He wants to move on to a new example, Neil. That's right, because he's got no humility. He can't concede he's wasted everyone's time with his abject fuckwittery and stupidity. No, he wants a new example. He wants another bash. No, I want some humility.
It's not an example. I just wanted to make clear.
I don't care what you want, you fucking idiot. I expect humility from here on out, and you're damn well gonna give it me. Accept and appreciate that you had no point and therefore wasted everybody's time. Have some humility. Don't tell me what you want, like I care.
Doesn't seem like great discourse, to be honest.
Oh, right. You think it's reasonable to fucking waste everybody's time and then go on to a new example that's absolutely without question going to waste our time without acknowledgement of the total waste of time you've already had us endure? That seems like reasonableness, does it? No. I expect that you say sorry. I'm sorry I wasted these people's time, but you don't. You don't have any sorrow for your fuckwittery that you've subjected us all to. You don't care. You just want another crack of the whip and to moan about how unreasonable this discourse is and how much more reasonable it would be if we listened to your fuckwittery for another 20 minutes.
I mean, I listened to yours for an hour and a half.
I don't give a fuck what you do. You're getting told off. You think I owe you something, you stupid twat? No, I don't.
But do I owe you an apology?
Yes! For your fuckwittery that you wasted all our time with.
What were you trying to prove anyway?
He didn't prove anything. Go on.
Yeah, thank you. What he's trying to show, from what I can gather, excuse me, I don't know your name. Are you trying to equate the vacuum and the turning bottle to a globe Earth turning in a vacuum and all the densities staying as they should stay? Is this what you're trying to equate?
I'm not. No, that's not the point I'm trying to make. Well, this is a very small scale experiment.
What is the point you're trying to make?
There is something else besides the densities of these liquids that cause them to arrange themselves in a certain way.
No, gravity's not a force, so forget that.
And what would that be?
They're not. It comes down to structural support. Matter needs structural support. If it doesn't have structural support, it's not going to stay where it is. That's why helium does not stay close to the ground, because it's not dense enough to support the other more dense gases above it. Everything needs structural support.
Yeah,
that's
what was he trying to say though? Let him go. What's the answer to you?
Yeah, here I posted it in live stream. This is his claim. Why would the brick go up?
Where can I find this? Sorry, I'm a bit new to Discourse.
But he's now detailed.
Yeah, if you guys look on the live stream chat, this is I think if I know who you are, Robo's idea that he's questioning Earth. Why doesn't bricks go up? And he gives a little MS Paint description here.
No, that wasn't me actually, but I can probably kind of debate over with this as well. Yeah, we can. I'll indulge this.
You will you? You will indulge it, will you? No, you fucking won't. You'll apologise for the abject stupidity and waste of time that you've subjected us all to. We're not moving on from that just because someone else has sidetracked my demand for some humility. No, you didn't have a point.
To be honest, Nathan, everyone else on this conversation is being quite, I'd like to say, polite and indulging me. Keep having a nice debate.
I indulged you. Indulged you. You wasted our time. Now I'm expecting you to acknowledge it, but you're not. Why aren't you indulging me with some humility?
Give it me now.
Yeah, give it me.
It's very simple.
You could just say my bad, and then we can move on to what you think is making the density do what it's doing in the tower.
Sure, I'm very sorry you feel like I have wasted your time, Nathan.
No. Not that I feel you've wasted our time. You have. You think your weaselly fucking apology is going to wash here? You think I'm stupid? You think apologising for how I feel about something is satisfactory, you stupid twat? No. You have taken us through a complete waste of time, load of nonsense without a point, to ask us about why there was a change that did not occur. That was a waste of time. You didn't have a point because I caught your request to justify a change that didn't happen, rendering your point pointless. But you're still yet to concede that.
Nathan, we're talking about a different kind of change, and you won't let me explain that.
Sorry. If they're all arranged in these different layers, but for the fact that you come along and reorientate the chamber, yeah, there is absolutely no difference after they have reached equilibrium as stated by me. There is no
familiar with
change.
Control volume.
And yet, while I make my conclusion, you ask me a question, asshole. It seems everyone else is quite cordial, and now you're talking through me while I tell you off for your rudeness as you talk through my conclusion. Everyone else here seems quite cordial. You seem like a cunt who talks through the end of my conclusion, which would be to say that there is no change. There is no need for me to justify a change, which was your point that you thought you had until I pointed out that they will reach equilibrium and be identical, i.e. no change. Still yet to be conceded, I have repeated my rebuttal, rendering your point useless and pointless and a waste of time about 7 times, and you are still yet to acknowledge and concede your time-wasting nonsense ripped to shreds by me.
Again, you didn't let me explain what I mean by change then.
Sorry, after they have returned to equilibrium, there is no change. But for the fact that you fuck with it, it's exactly the same. And even after you fuck with it, it's exactly the same. There is no change.
The container's upside down.
Oh, so the thing that you altered... So the only change is the thing that you altered then? Oh, I know what caused that, you fucking clown. You altered it. So you're going to ask me to justify why that has changed. You changed it. Are you really this fucking stupid? You're going to ask me to justify why a hypothetical jar you've turned upside down is now upside down? Because you changed it, mate. You turned it upside down. Are you fundamentally fucking retarded? Do you think this is a worthwhile point to spend now 20 minutes on? You fucking clown. Do you think I'm unjustified in telling you off? In terms of you feeling that a point worth raising is why in a completely redundant vacuum chamber, if you change a jar's orientation and everything then returns to equilibrium, why the container has changed? Do you not appreciate how unbelievably stupid you are? Or maybe it's the discourse and how unreasonable my tone is. No, mate. You've just wasted a lot of our time by thinking you've got a point in asking why a jar changes when you change it. That's your point. You fucking moron. You total clown. You unbelievable spastic. Maybe concede that you've wasted a lot of our time with this abject nonsense about why does a jar change when I change it? You think this is a worthy point for us to spend all this time on? No, you're just stupid. And getting told off by a flat earther, I might add. Why don't bricks go up might not be you. But you've asked us to justify why a jar you changed the orientation of changes. Making you so stupid and absolutely definitely worthy of a proper tongue lashing from me. And I assure you I take great pleasure in pointing out to globe-head fundamentalist retard zealots like yourself just how fucking stupid they've been. With their own words, that have wasted a lot of our time, and we're still yet to hear a concession for why I have made clear telling us to justify an orientation in a jar change that you've changed isn't worthy of anybody's time. But we're never going to get it. Why? Well, because you've got no humility. Have you, Robo?
You didn't let me justify my change, Nathan.
Oh, what, the one that I've just laboured for? This will be the 8th time I've explained that the only change is the orientation of the jar.
it's clear that you have a sense of it, but do you mind listening to mine?
You've explained it, and I listened.
You didn't understand, it seems.
Oh, I didn't understand. Having had it detailed that the jar changes orientation, and having had you ask me why the jar has changed orientation, it's me that's stupid. No, you fucking clown. You unbelievable retard. You've asked me to justify why the jar changed orientation. I do understand how fucking stupid you are. But I also understand the total lack of humility being displayed. And I'm giving you a verbal tongue lashing for it, and it's continuing. It's being justified. I am justified in calling you a fucking clown because on 8 separate occasions I've explained why justification of the orientation of a jar you've changed isn't worthy of anybody's time. It's abject stupidity. You changed it, you clown. I do understand. All of the other periphery and hyperbole surrounding your question about why this jar changed after you changed it is nonsense and a waste of everybody's time. It also demonstrates just how fucking thick you are, Robo. And I'm going to be the one to tell you fucking thick retards from here on out precisely how thick you are on this occasion, 8 separate occasions. Okay, Robo? Maybe I don't understand. Maybe that little piece of shit defense will work again on a second attempt.
Do we know what a frame of reference is?
Oh, maybe a subject change rather than an ounce of humility.
I thought you'd try and
give us some fucking humility. I was wrong. What I was right about was the absolute lack of humility that's been demonstrated 4 days consecutively so far.
He was just trying.
You're a weasel. You're a weasel, mate.
Really sad.
Really sad. Pathetic.
Neil, to be honest, I don't mind talking to you.
You can suck my dick. You're getting told off by me. I know you'd like to talk to one of the other people who are going to try and sidetrack this telling off that you're getting. But it's not going to happen, mate. I am going to continue to call you an abject retard and perhaps for the 9th time detail how asking us how the orientation of a jar that you've changed the orientation of does not need justification, regardless of all the hyperbole you surround it with vacuums and density gradient towers that return to equilibrium. You're still going to get told off by me. You're still going to get called a clown by me. And you will still continue to make me correct every time I claim correctly that you humiliate yourself by your demonstrations of lack of humility. It's embarrassing, mate. 9 times.
How do those balls taste?
I'm going to talk to you anyway. You wasted enough of my time.
Yeah, the people around you are telling you, Robo. The people around you are telling you, the one you appealed to's just told you you've wasted a lot of his time. Maybe have some humility, maybe apologise to him, or maybe apologise for his feeling like he's had his time wasted by a fuckwit retard. That'd be you, Robo, who's just been told how you've wasted his time. You're going to apologise for his feelings? Like a real weasel?
Sorry, Neil. This is 20 minutes. I'd like to have given you back, but I can't. But I apologise if the discourse isn't how you might have wanted. But
no, that's another weasel apology. No, I apologise, it's not how he perceived to have wanted it. No, you have wasted our time and you're still behaving like a pathetic weasel. You're pathetic.
Whoa. What do you mean Nathan don't know what a frame of reference is? I think he knows pretty damn well.
I know, it's just an obfuscation. Don't bite, Neil.
Yeah.
So if you take the frame of reference of the
fuck
jar,
you. Are you going to get kicked out if you continue to use Neil to obfuscate your telling off?
This is the tactic, bro.
He thinks
this is the clown show tactic, bro.
Yeah.
But I think that what he wants to do is try to see if relative density could be screwed around with the theory of relativity. So it's like changing the orientation. No, it's all nonsense. The orientation of the relative density disequilibrium motions are always set in the same alignment. Doesn't matter how much you change things around, they're always going to be set in the same directions. And that's a given.
Perfect. Really nice explanation, Owen. And with that, and a total lack of humility being displayed for the fourth day on the trot from the Globe side of this argument, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!